Hot stellar.
Yeah, for anyone wondering, we just got back on. It's great to have you guys back. The Brian internet somehow does it again, even when we're wired in. It's somehow can't stay stable. It's ridiculous.
Lots
You know,
of issues.
oh, completely. It is ridiculous. But if it comes down to it, I would say for the Jets who've just been tremendously awful this year, and if it comes down to it, I'm just going to be completely honest. Trevor Lawrence should either stay at Clemson or he should try to find some other way to either work out or find another football league to participate in, and wait to go to the NFL.
Oh, wait to go to the NFL. What are you getting at there?
Maybe we'll touch on it later in the show.
Maybe a little bit later.
Maybe
All
later
right.
on the show.
Yeah.
All right. Also in NFL news, big game coming up this weekend for the New
Oh,
England
it's
Patriots.
huge. Oh, it's huge.
I mean, it's going to be a rematch, but we're also going to get to see some new faces going on. Pats Chiefs has for the past couple of years has been a tremendous game, but the big missing piece of this year is going to be Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And Brady and Mahomes were having some great matchups when it was going on down up here in New England. But now we're going to have to see what Cam can do against this Chiefs team. I mean, Mahomes has just been an absolute juggernaut this year. He doesn't seem like he's missed a beat. The Chiefs really just seem like they're going to run it back and end up winning another championship. But what do you think? How do you think the Pats are going to be able to respond on Sunday?
I mean, being a Pats fan in this situation, your hopes really can't be high when you're going into a game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say that they think that we can beat the Chiefs. They think they will be the only team to beat the Chiefs this year. I really don't know what the odds of that are. I don't have high expectations for our defense against Mahomes. I don't have high expectations for any defense against Mahomes. But even with a close loss, I think I'll be satisfied after this week.
I mean, yeah, if it's similar to a Seattle game, then I kind of agree with you. It's going to be tough though, because I mean, if the Chiefs are rolling, they could easily come out and just clap us. I mean, it could be over before we even know it.
Are they playing in Arrowhead?
I actually don't know. That is going to be the big deciding factor, because if they are in Arrowhead, they got fans.
There's fans,
and that's going to be the big deciding factor. So
Arrowhead's
I'll probably
a pretty tough stadium to play in.
I mean, regardless of who they're playing, the Chiefs are a tough team no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, let me check. Let's see.
But,
Yeah, we are at Arrowhead, so that is going to be a tough game.
Oh,
that completely changes it. Right now, I guess the betting odds have Kansas City by a touchdown.
By a touchdown?
Yeah, they got them by 7 points.
Okay.
So that is actually a pretty crazy thing that they have them up by that much. I will give them that. Gotta say, I mean, for the Pats, it's gonna be a crazy game.
It really is. I think we'll see a shootout.
Yeah. How do you
High
think?
Scoring.
I mean, how do you think Cam is gonna respond to all this?
I'd like to see him come out throwing again.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of, the game against the Raiders, he really didn't have too much of his own flair in the game. He really kind of just sat back and let the running backs do the work.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if the Pats are gonna have any shot at beating the Chiefs, I think Bill is gonna have to, put all his chips in on Cam and hope that he can do something.
You gotta throw some deep bombs on that secondary, because that's the threat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think if Cam leaves the pocket, there's no way he's not getting attacked instantly.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's that Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I wonder if the Pats are going to go to a similar attack using running backs in the way they did against Las Vegas.
I want to see those receivers get some more action.
Yeah,
I really do.
I mean, I do too, but at the same time, it's just a matter. I think Bill is probably looking at that core and just going, what receivers?
Yeah.
I mean, you got Edelman, who's always going to be solid for you, but he is in his 30s, and he's honestly at this point maybe 1 or 2 shots away. And then you got N'Keal Harry, who's had his problem with his hands.
Yeah.
You gotta just hope that he can really pull it together and be something. But then the other factor is probably just how is Cam gonna be able to react to all of it? Is he gonna be able to put all the pieces together, or is Mahomes just gonna be too much? And I'm probably at this point leaning on the side that Mahomes is just gonna be too much.
He's too much for every single team they face.
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, I don't think that it's going to be a matter of Andy Reid having a better day coaching than Bill Belichick, but I think just talent wise, I think Pat Mahomes is just going to probably just have a day with that defense.
You really don't have very much hope in those receivers.
There's not even hope in the receivers. I mean, that Pats defense, they had just multiple guys opt out, and I just don't think that when you have something like that happen, it's going to be a good sign.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if David Andrews is going to be back either, but if he isn't, then that's going to be some other problems at center.
Was it with him, thumb?
Yeah, I think it was a broken thumb on his snapping hand. So if he's not back, that's going to be some weaknesses on the line. I know that I forget who was covering. I know they slid Tooney over to center, but I forget when they did that. I forget who they put there, but it was a rookie, and I think he was a special teamer. But from what I remember, I think he struggled in Sunday's game against the Raiders.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then you could put like Chris Jones and some of those guys, and even though the Chiefs do have a weak defense, they do have some solid guys up front that could make some problems.
Definitely.
So that is an issue, and if the Pats can't find out a way to stop that, then at that point you have both the offense and the defense compromised, and you really don't have a shot at that point.
Yeah, but if you're Mahomes in this game, you got to come out confident, and you got to get that momentum, because that's how the Chiefs play. Once they get that momentum, especially at home, it's game over.
Well, that's not a problem though for Mahomes. I mean, he's always going to come out with that confidence. I mean, that's not going to be something that he's ever kind of like not having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he's always going to have that confidence.
Yep.
I mean, and unless something really tragic happens, an injury could do that. A real devastating loss could do that. But he doesn't seem shaken. I think he's going to come out, and I think he's going to have himself a game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see him against Cam Newton and not Tom Brady. That's a first.
Yeah, that's going to be
first of many matchups, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's going to raise the question of whether you think that Cam's going to be staying in New England.
Oh, that answers the question.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that Bill's just going to be using him as a one-year rental?
Well, what's the point if he's playing well?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that he is trying to basically work up Stidham.
I haven't heard too much of Stidham's name.
I get that, but at the same time, I'm almost thinking, the way that Bill has been, aggressively running Cam. I do wonder, is Bill just going to say, we're just going to run this guy into the ground and, whatever happens, and if we can get a chip out of it, or do whatever we can with him, we'll take it.
I think Cam's a hardworking guy, and that's what Belichick looks for the most in a lot of his players.
Yeah.
If he wants to continue showing that throughout prior seasons, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you could definitely make a case for that.
Yeah.
It's just going to be tough. I mean, if Bill is running him as aggressively as this, I just don't know the durability factor, years down the line if Bill is to give him an extension.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the trouble I see with that. Also in NFL news, we saw a pretty crazy storyline emerging. I think we talked about it on Wednesday's show a little bit, but the Steelers-Titans game has been rescheduled to a later date in the season. I think Monday and Tuesday were options about that. We were joking about Tuesday Night Football. I don't know if anything's really happening yet, but I think they just said it's going to be put at a later time of the season. Yeah. And basically, really everything is just up in the air.
Up in the air. We never know.
Yeah, no, I mean, to think that, basically one case like this could shut down an entire week's worth of games, and that's going to have an incredible impact on the way that the weeks are going to be run in the NFL. I mean, if you think about it, I think I talked about this during Wednesday's show as well, but in baseball, even though they had a shorter season, they were able to, even when guys get sick and you have to postpone games, you can make up games in a shorter span of time. You can have double headers. You can do like that. Mm-hmm. You can't have a double header in football.
No way.
It's basically just it would be
an entire addition to the schedule.
Oh my God. I mean, it would completely just decimate a team if you had to play games in such a short span. I mean, that Sunday to Thursday night game is a grind for guys, and that really takes a toll on teams. So, I mean, I can't imagine what it's going to be like for these guys to have to kind of adjust and probably have to, really play on short rest.
Are they saying anything about when they're rescheduling it to?
Not sure as of yet. I know in the fantasy world, I think they just said that basically it's going to act as a bye week for the guys, but really nothing I'm too sure of right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So whenever they do manage to get the game going, it is gonna, hopefully it goes off without a hitch. But if this starts to become a trend for the rest of the league, I think that we're in some serious trouble.
If you're the NFL in this situation, this is not good.
Oh no, not good. Not at all.
Yeah, that's not a good look on your part. But
I mean, if this starts to become the normal for the NFL, then I think there's going to be a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I get at this point, like, if we want sports, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
we're going to see it, but you want to do everything in your power to get rid of something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, if these guys are coming down with COVID, it obviously is very serious, and you hope that everything can resolve itself quickly. But really, we don't know, because this is still a new virus, and we really just don't know what impact this is going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, actually transitioning from that. Basically from the Steelers-Titans COVID game, there's also some new rules and regulations that have been rolled out by the NFL. I don't know if you kind of saw those. But basically, the NFL is putting forward some new guidelines saying that if coaches don't adhere to these new COVID guidelines, there's going to be some harsh penalties, possibly suspensions, forfeiture of draft picks are on the table. For basically not wearing masks or social distancing on the sidelines. I know that guys like John Gruden have been scrutinized for it.
Yeah.
Multitudes of different coaches have kind of faced scrutiny for not wearing masks, not socially distancing when they're not on the field to play. Do you think that this is kind of harsh for the league?
I just don't want to see the penalties too high. I completely agree with it because you got to prove your point and you got to make sure people are following the restrictions. But I don't want the penalty like you were talking about draft picks.
Yeah,
really?
That's starting to get absurd because now you're impacting the future of the team even after a pandemic.
Nah, you don't like to see something like that.
No, and I mean, I honestly think that the league is completely being hypocritical because they're putting forth these guidelines where they're going to have players going for it and just hitting players on the field. They're going to be breathing on each other the entire game. But then when the game ends, they're not allowed to do a jersey swap. And I'm just like you were touching the other guy the entire game. What changes when the whistle blows?
Exactly.
Nothing changes when that final.
Absolutely nothing.
No. So I mean, there's just a ton of hypocrisy going on, and I think that the NFL has to realize that. I know that they're probably just covering themselves and trying to save face through this. But, I mean, it is ridiculous.
You'd think the coaches would be a little more motivated to wear the masks, too, because they cover your lips.
Yeah.
You see coaches all the time covering their lips so that nobody can read their lips.
Yeah, no, I mean, true. You usually
do
see guys
with to worry about that.
You do usually see guys with a clipboard kind of holding it up and basically trying to hide calls. That is kind of a way of hiding that. But, basically these guys have been coaches and these players have been playing for ages, way before this pandemic has even, been in the forethoughts of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they're being told that they have to do something that they don't really feel that is going to, benefit them in a game, then they're probably not going to do it.
No, you're right.
And it's probably just habit at this point more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that the NFL is going a little harsh here, and I don't think that these penalties really make sense, especially with the way that other guidelines have been put forth by the league.
Even the fines that John Gruden got, that one, how much was that? I think it was like $100K.
Probably, yeah.
That's still ridiculous in my opinion.
I mean, at the same time, John Gruden, I think, is on a 10-year, $100 million contract, so for him, he's probably just chilling.
Pocket change, but still.
I mean, that is crazy, though, to think that, I don't know. It's just a crazy thing to think about.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, let's shift over to NBA.
Why don't we?
Yeah. So we got the finals, game 2 coming up, Lakers Heat.
Mm-hmm.
LA really kind of just handed it to Miami in game 1.
Oh, yeah.
Really wasn't too much of a game. I mean, I know Miami was up way early in the game, but really once LeBron and AD got going, there really wasn't much to do, stopping them.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, AD looked unstoppable.
Oh, my God. I mean, you got game 2 coming up. Point guard Goran Dragic and center Bam Adebayo are both doubtful for this game. Worst possible case scenario for the Heat here. You'd like to think that they could put up much of a fight, but if this is going to be the reality in which they're dealing with, I think the possibility of a sweep could be on the table.
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna have to agree with you there because once the injuries start happening, nothing.
I mean, they were doing really solid in the bubble so far, but if these injuries start to really keep up the way that they have, that I don't know. It's not going to be good.
Not going to be good.
No. If it does come down to it, trying to think.
I think the point in game 1 where the Heat lost all momentum was actually when Bam Adebayo got injured.
Yeah.
I saw that shoulder injury looked absolutely nasty. He hit the floor pretty hard, and he left the game, and it was like the Heat flipped a switch. They're a completely different team.
Yeah,
that was the only thing somewhat guarding LeBron and AD.
Yeah, I mean the Heat do kind of have a smaller lineup out there.
Yeah.
It's really just not.
You never really notice it until they're actually playing against a team like the Lakers.
Yeah, and especially when
they look big against the Celtics.
Especially when the Celtics have Daniel Tice down there, and he's not a big man whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a completely different discussion about the way the Celtics completely just couldn't find a big man.
It is hilarious seeing Duncan Robinson standing next to Anthony Davis, though. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah.
It is going to be a real tough one for the Heat, especially because now they don't have a guy that can guard these guys, and be a formidable matchup. I'm just trying to think how the Heat are going to be able to attack this now.
There's no way.
Yeah, it's just going to be.
You
I think
they realize that? Maybe a little bit.
I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to let them realize that
No way.
with the way he leads that team. But I
Yeah.
could definitely see if there are some guys in there just doubting it, just being like, we're done for.
Even Jimmy Butler came out of the game for a little bit. It looked like he sprained something in his knee.
Really?
But it wasn't that bad.
All
As soon as it happened, we all thought, "Oh, that's a torn ACL." But
and
okay.
probably everyone else was thinking, well, series.
Yeah, series,
That's
but-
series.
Yeah, but there goes Bam. Oh, there goes Dragic. And,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were saying, wow, Jimmy Butler has really been doing it so far. And, I'll give Jimmy Butler a lot of credit. He got through a lot. He got through basically every team in the East. I mean, he really just had himself a series. But, is this going to kind of raise the question, just be like, does Jimmy Butler need more to really, be successful? Is he the guy, or does he need another person to, really help him lead and, someone basically on his level? And I think that is becoming more apparent as the days go on.
I do see that question arising from this series, but who do you think the Heat could acquire?
One name, very long name, Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo
Wow.
could head to the Miami Heat.
That's
doubtful. Game changer. I'm just saying.
Game changer, but very doubtful.
Hey, listen, the Heat have a lot of prospects.
No, they do, but after the whole thing that happened with Giannis and the Bucks owner, I don't see it happening.
I don't know. I would if they could land a
That'd
guy
be
like him.
Incredible.
Oh, I mean,
but,
obviously, I mean that's a dream scenario. So
Yeah.
I know I'm talking like I'm crazy, but that is the dream scenario for the Heat to land a guy like that.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think that the Heat they had such an incredible run, but the fact that LeBron and AD are just going to simply be too
The fact
much.
that they exist and that they are playing basketball, it doesn't matter.
No, it's just unfortunate because you look at it and it's like, wow, these teams have so much hope going on, and it's just basically a dead smack, and it's just like, wow, that's reality.
It is pretty disappointing, but that's probably what being a team of any other fan during the past few years of the NFL was like.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost similar to the way the Warriors were kind of running the league, where it's just like, where basically teams in the West were like, we have a shot, and then it's basically like, oh no, Steph and Clay, and even when KD got there, it was like, oh wow, it's over. It is a wrap. Even when KD was hurt,
Yeah.
it was still a wrap. So to think about that, just in the way that it happened, I mean, it's just insane.
So do you think the Lakers are that next Warriors type team?
I think so. I mean, it's unfortunate coming from a Celtics fan, but I have no reason to believe that they aren't. I mean, they have completely just been a juggernaut as of late. I wanted to be the Clippers in this final so bad, but they really just couldn't pull together and have that team chemistry. They were reeling throughout the playoffs,
Yeah.
and that's why Doc Rivers is out as the head coach there now.
But I mean, if you're the Clippers, who's to say that? Well, they were the 2 seed all season. They beat the Lakers a few times during the regular season.
Yeah.
Who's to say if you're the Clippers, you can't come out next year and keep doing the same thing?
I mean, there's nothing that really says that.
Different circumstances. I mean, you're not living in the bubble.
I mean, yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I feel like a lot of players are probably just going to be wondering, well, at the same time, we also fired our head coach, and there's probably I knew that I don't know if you remember that when Paul George basically called the guys into the locker room, and he was like, hey guys, let's all come back next year, we'll win a chip. And I guess that didn't play well in the locker room at all. I guess they kind of looked at him like he was basically just a joke because of the way that he just completely melted down in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that showed in the bubble.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's going to be tough I think for the Clippers to probably come back and be as good as they were this year, even being the 2 seed. I think that they'll probably have some slip ups, but I don't know.
How much longer do you think Kawhi has in?
He'll finish the contract. I'm not worried about that.
How long is his contract?
I believe 4 years.
4 years.
He'll make it through the contract. I'm not worried about that. But I'm just wondering, and I'm not worried about them not making the playoffs. Obviously, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be a decent
because they do
team.
have Kawhi.
Yeah, and they have Paul George,
Yep.
and they're a loaded team, and they will compete. But I'm just wondering, how is the chemistry of everything that basically transpired in the bubble going to affect them?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see next season. It's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know if you saw this, but basically Kyrie Irving went on a podcast and and basically said that now that he's going to have KD in these later season games, he's finally going to have someone to defer to in late game situations. And everyone immediately went, whoa, dude, didn't you play with LeBron James? Didn't you help him win a finals? And I'm like, from a guy who's just a flat earther and, he's been, completely out there anyways. I'm not surprised that he'd say something this dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he did come out and try to clarify and say, hey, listen.
That's our vice president of the Players Association right there.
Oh yeah, no, and that just says something about where the Players Association is at, and that doesn't surprise me. Whatever. And I guess he did try to come out and clarify and try to smooth things over and say like, oh, you guys know what I meant. But at the same time, I'm just like, Kyrie, you played with a guy who's arguably the second greatest basketball player of all time. Some people make the claim for him being the greatest, and I'm just like, you say you don't have anyone to basically ditch the ball to in late game situations. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
Maybe that was more of a shot at the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine. I mean, it has to be a slight at the Celtics, but I'm like, dude, you weren't drafted in Boston. You had a career in Cleveland. Maybe whether you want to admit it or not, and whether you want to admit that it ended poorly or not, you did have a career out there.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the heck?
Yeah. No.
It was that quote just made me laugh, and I thought it was almost more of a meme than anything.
Yeah.
I was like,
Kyrie's not either of our favorite people.
Oh no, correct? I mean, and you can make arguments about that before he even got to Boston. I mean, he's been an out there guy from the beginning. I mean, you have the flat Earth conspiracies. You have all the stuff about him. Even when he was in Boston, he said that he promised he was going to resign, but then that offseason, he basically just completely went against that. The guy has just been controversial, ever since at least he got to Boston, and probably even beforehand.
I'm not even going to lie to you. I didn't really even see the controversy behind Kyrie Irving until that whole drama went down when he left Boston.
I mean, it just it went downhill so quick, and I think Danny Ainge was just completely blindsided by everything that happened.
On him, I mean,
yeah,
he's not a classy person.
Oh no, I mean,
not in my opinion.
I mean, the way he handled himself leaving Boston, I don't think whatsoever.
No way.
Yeah,
there's no signs.
I mean, it was just I'm just like, dude, can you be more self-aware? I'm like, dude, it's frustrating because he's a very talented player. He's a very good player, but I'm just like, dude, can you just realize that, you played with one of the greatest of all time? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
So that did make me that did have me on edge, and I was just like, this guy is just so.
Nobody disrespects LeBron James like that.
Yeah, but then he calls LeBron his buddy, and when he was having troubles in Boston, he ended up calling him and was like saying and was talking about the problems he was having leading the team. And I'm just like, it was so frustrating seeing all of it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how all of that transpired. It was crazy to me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that guy.
Yeah, it has been just he has just been a weird factor in the league ever since he's gotten here. Yeah. And with each team he's gone to, the things he said have just probably gotten weirder. I can't really think any. Mm-hmm. I mean, he probably said some really dumb stuff in Boston, but I really can't think of too much besides just the lying and all the controversies he stirred up with the younger guys.
Yeah.
So, but just has been a completely just a mess.
Toxic player.
It is insane to me. Let's try to transition to something maybe a little lighter, but okay. So basically the Philadelphia 76ers, we were talking about who are they going to hire as the head coach for so long. We had talked about Ty Lue thinking that it was actually the case, and we said this was a terrible move for them. We speculated Billy Donovan because he had worked with superstars in the past. But the decision was made official that they are going to sign Doc Rivers to a 5-year contract. I think we talked about it briefly on Wednesday's show. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I don't like it.
Really?
I don't like it.
What? I don't
think it's a good fit for Doc Rivers.
At the same time, though, where do you think Doc's going to go?
I mean, looking back on it, there's not too many other places he can go.
Yeah.
But I really don't see success in the future in Philadelphia.
Really? Yeah. How come?
So you look at the 76ers play style, and you look at how Doc Rivers needs to transition from coaching the Los Angeles Clippers to the 76ers. The 76ers play primarily through Ben Simmons and primarily through Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
They can't shoot.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard can shoot.
I get it, but at the
He
same,
doesn't have the weapons in Philadelphia that he had in LA.
I mean, I get it, but Doc Rivers is also a coach who really just works primarily with superstars. That's really kind of what his MO is. I think that he'll be fine. I really do.
I think that he'll be fine, but I don't see success for the 76ers whatsoever.
I think he'll lead them to more success than Brett Brown would have. I
You
mean,
think
Brett Brown was the process coach.
in an absolutely stacked Eastern Conference next year.
I think they'll put up more of a fight.
I think they're still a 5 or 6 seed.
I think they'll probably make the jump.
Really?
Yeah, I think they'll probably
Who they
be,
replace in Boston?
if things go well, then there's a shot. I mean,
Okay.
I'd say it's on the table if they start to click. I mean, Doc Rivers is probably the guy who's. I mean, I really did like the move because I think that they needed a guy who. The Sixers really needed a guy who's worked with superstars in the past. Doc Rivers is that guy. He's done it on multiple occasions with Lob City with the 2008 Celtics.
Yep.
So he has been able to work with superstars. He has been able to get relative success. More at the beginning of his career than now. I mean, the Clippers really couldn't make it past the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I am interested to see how he is going to work with these new guys. Is he going to be able to take the Sixers to the next level? I mean, I do have my concerns. I mean, like you said, the shooting is definitely going to be a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Simmons, I think at this point still hasn't made 5 threes in his entire life.
No way.
So I mean, to think that it's going to completely change overnight, I'm not 100% certain on that. But I do think he is going to lead the Sixers to be better off than they were with Brett Brown.
Okay.
I do. I think that Brett Brown.
I see what you're saying when you say that Doc Rivers primarily works best with superstars. He's shown that a little bit in the past, but
I mean,
in terms of superstars
and from what
in
I can,
LA, you couldn't do too much.
yeah, from what I can tell, though, the one thing that he does seem to pose is that he can, I guess he can, get at least the personalities in check. I don't know how much the personality problem is an issue in Philly, but when you have guys that are at the top of their game, it's always going to be, a factor.
Definitely.
So if, Doc can get these guys in check, that's going to be, the number one, thing, I think.
Yeah.
And if they're all clicking, then, then I truly do think you can get the best out of these guys.
We'll see.
Yeah. Let's see. Also, I was gonna maybe hold off on this until the finals were over, but the NBA playoffs are finally coming to an end in the Orlando bubble. I was just kind of wondering on your opinion of basically the bubble in general. Like, what has your take been from just the entire experience of it?
Well, at the beginning, I obviously thought that the NBA was doing it best. They had these extreme restrictions. Players are getting fined and suspended for doing regular everyday things that they were doing before.
Ordering a pizza.
Yeah. So up until the NFL,
Lou will going to get chicken tenders.
Chicken tenders.
Yeah.
So up until the NFL started, and I saw how that whole thing kind of works. I completely disagree with the NBA bubble now.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it might have been good for the time when it started, but as time progressed, I think the restrictions should have got lesser and lesser, because you look at one league, the NFL, who's notorious for treating their players poorly.
Oh, well, yeah.
And these players are able to live their regular lives with minimal restrictions, and the NBA players were shipped to Orlando and lived in a bubble for 4 months.
Yeah,
Isolated.
I will say, I think that there are good sides and bad sides to both leagues.
I mean, the NFL probably has 5 times the amount of players than the.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, the NFL is going to have problems with. I mean, you're seeing the Steelers and Titans now having COVID problems.
That's true.
So I mean, it is tough because I would say
But
if I had
that just pretending that there were no COVID issues in the NBA.
No, but with the plus side of it was that they were waiting until. They basically waited until everyone tested negative before they did anything.
Okay.
And that was, the big thing for them is, and I'm pretty sure like once everyone tested negative, they were pretty much able to live normal lives down there. I think they were able to be without masks. I don't think they had to social distance or anything like that. Once everything was broken. And I mean, that's kind of the dream scenario when you're down there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have to once
it's still just a change of scenery, and it affects all players differently.
Yeah. I will say this. I know a lot of people have been fans of kind of the stadium design of it. One thing I really wish they had done for the NBA Finals though is I do wish they had done the home team and had done the courts for the home team.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I get that. I get the idea of doing it for the preliminary rounds of the playoffs and kind of just showing that, hey, this is the bubble. We're gonna have the giant NBA logo in the center. But I do wish that, as it got further on, I mean, I think that they do have two separate, centers where they do the games at least. So I kind of just wish that, if they had done that, they could have had one court with the Heat, with the Heat hardwood, and they could have had another court with the Lakers, and wherever they had to play that night, they would just go to that arena, and it would have and I think that it just would have made I think the finals would have looked more normal, and I think the fans would have appreciated it more.
Yeah, they definitely do a lot to simulate that home court advantage, but could have done more.
Yeah, I mean,
those digital logos and ads irritate me though.
Really?
Yeah, because they're all fuzzy most of the time. They don't look good.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, the digital fans, to me, it is still a trippy experience. I'm iffy on that.
Yeah.
It's fine, but at the same time,
much.
yeah, I kind of agree. I think they did the best they could in the time that they had, so I'll give them that.
Yeah, they made the most of it.
Yeah, I do agree though. If it had become possible for them to play, in cities when it got down to it, that would have been awesome. But I think when this whole thing hit, I think they just had to say, if we do it, we have to bubble it.
Yeah.
So it is tough.
It's
but
hard to believe it's already coming to the end of it too. Like we blinked and it's October.
Yeah.
NBA's coming to a close. MLB soon. NHL's done, and now we got football.
The NBA is coming to a close in October. A statement I thought I would never say.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, what a weird thing to say. I mean, just to think, oh, the NBA is over when it typically would be starting.
Yeah, typically would be starting.
And really the question is in the air of when are we going to see, the next season of NBA basketball. It really still is up in the air. Is it going to be January? Is it going to be Christmas? How long are these players going to have off before Adam Silver says, you know what, guys, it's time to get back to work for another 82?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
and how are they going to do it when it gets back to work? Are they going to just say, hey, we're going to do this in hometowns this time? Or are they going to try to do another mega bubble again?
Oh, I don't like the idea of that mega bubble.
I don't either.
I think, like I said before, up against these other sports leagues like the NFL, won't do well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. At the same time, though, it will kind of be weird, I think, if you're just seeing these guys basically just hitting shots in open arenas as opposed to this more closed bubble setting.
Yep.
So I'm not saying I'd be opposed to a mega bubble, but at the same time, I think that, the quicker we can get back to playing in the home stadiums, the better. I really do think so.
I also just think the players shouldn't really have to go through that again.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, there's a chance that I think there have been some aspects of it that they enjoyed. I mean, yeah, I know Paul George was posting pictures of him fishing down there, and some guys were having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. But at the same time, I think if you had to ask players, would you do it again? I think the answer would probably be a tremendous no amongst the crowd.
Yeah, at least make an attempt to return to normal.
Yeah. Speaking of a return to normal, let's transition to MLB before we end up, going down the wire and talking about some last minute stuff. In MLB news, some pretty positive news seems to be coming out that, Major League Baseball, when it comes to the World Series and the NLCS at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, that's going to be the field that hosts the National League Championship Series and the World Series. The reports are coming out that they're going to allow a limited number of fans for each game at that stadium. I guess it's going to be roughly around 11,500 tickets are going to be sold, and that for that stadium's capacity, it's around 28%, and because I guess the stadium typically sits about 44,000.
Wow.
But this is great news for baseball if they can get all these fans in, have it be socially distanced, and have a crowd for the playoffs. That'd be awesome news.
That would be awesome. I like that they're at least attempting.
Yeah, because I know they are. For the wild card rounds, they did do it at home stadiums, but for these next upcoming rounds, they are going to be doing it in a bubble. I know San Diego's among one of the places. I'm not too sure about all the other locations, but they're doing it. But they're going to have the AL teams playing in NL stadiums to avoid any home team advantage. If, say, like a team, in one of those stadiums had, made the playoffs, they're not going to be able to play in that stadium just to avoid any.
Wow, that's smart.
Yeah.
That's
smart. So basically, how the Padres, if like one of the stadiums that's going to be used for the playoff series is the San Diego Padres, the Padres are going to be playing in an American League stadium to avoid any home team advantage because that they would have. Actually, I think are the Padres still in it? Not entirely sure, but theoretically in that scenario.
Yeah.
But that's the case with that. I think that it's a good move. I would love to see fans in the stadiums, especially for the World Series. Not having fans there would be a really weird sight to see. I'm not trying to see the World Series champions pile on top of each other in front of a bunch of cardboard cutouts. I'd like to see some fans, really passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, get some crowd noise in there too.
Yeah, I am kind of wondering though, where are they going to get these fans from? Are they going to fly them in? Is it going to be like a ticket contest, or are they just going to take local Texans?
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so I am wondering what they're going to do for that.
Yeah.
Is there going to be like some fan experience? I mean, there'll probably be something, but at the same time, I bet you they're just going to sell them to guys at the door.
Probably.
And you know what? I don't really care. Whoever you can get in there, good for you.
I mean, that doesn't seem like the most effective way to get like the true fans though.
I think MLB is just trying to put out a product. I think they're just trying to get anyone in there, and they're just trying to make the product look as normal as possible. And you know what? Let's just hope for the best if they can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also in MLB playoff news, Houston Astros shortstop Carlos Correa, after they beat the Minnesota Twins, he basically went on TV and said, "I know a lot of people are mad. I know a lot of people didn't want to see us here, but what are they going to say to us now?" And that comes after the Houston Astros made the playoffs for the first time. They were a franchise they're the first franchise ever. I'll correct myself, to make the playoffs with a losing record. They were 29-31, and they finished off the Minnesota Twins, who in their last 18 playoff games have been 0-18. The last playoff win that they had was in 2004 against the Yankees.
Wow.
So, Carlos Correa, congratulations for winning the wild card round, but not too impressive. I'm not really impressed with the.
Yeah, he's gonna have to do a little more than
a little more, especially after, one thing I will say, the teams that have come through controversies like this, you can look at the Patriots and stuff like that. When they did win the chip after the Deflategate scandal, ended up happening. But I don't think that their players coming out flaunting, basically just saying, "Yeah, look at us now, look at us now." It was just like, "Hey,
not smart. It's not smart.
You do it when you win the whole damn thing."
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So it was a complete, just like, it completely just had me as like, "What the heck are you guys doing?"
So hypocritical.
Oh my god. And I think, and then also, I didn't have this in our notes, but the Miami Marlins did end up beating the Chicago Cubs in the NL Wild Card Series.
Yeah.
And they're
keep wearing that jersey.
And they are moving on to the NLDS against the Braves. They are still undefeated in playoff matchups in their franchise history. So they've still never lost a playoff series in their history.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think of. So, you know what? Marlins for World Series champs.
I'm going to have to agree with you there.
I mean, go for it. I mean, there's probably no shot that they do it, but you know what? I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I am 100% here for it. And before we end up going down to the wire, we were hinting at this earlier in the show, and Carter came onto the show originally as our XFL guru.
Sure.
And there is some positive news for you XFL fans out there, as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson recently put out a tweet saying that the XFL plans to return in the year 2022.
Realistically, that's a little over a year away.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I'll give you that.
I wouldn't consider that 2 years. We're almost at the end of 2020.
Yeah, true.
That's not that long.
What are your thoughts on the XFL possibly coming back? On the XFL now coming back?
I love it, man. I mean, we talk all the time about how much I praise the XFL.
Yeah.
Because it gives the players an alternative method to continue their football career with not very many, restrictions, not too much pressure. You do your own thing in the XFL, and if you're lucky, you'll get an opportunity in the big league, the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it also was fun. I mean, when we were watching it, seeing a spring college, not college football league, but a spring professional football league, that was a ton of fun seeing.
It was, yeah.
I mean, it is crazy to think, if the St. Louis Battlehawks are back in full force,
I hope so.
Go Battlehawks. I'm also wondering if there are going to be some new locations that end up getting teams. That'll be something that will definitely be, at the front of my mind.
Yeah.
Trying to think, it's gonna be crazy to think what players possibly will probably end up, going to the league.
There are 2 XFL players in the NFL right now.
Who are those again?
Jordan Teamu is a backup for the Chiefs.
Oh, I remember Teamu. Yeah, he was really solid.
I forget the name, but the quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks is the backup on the Panthers.
Really?
Yeah.
That is crazy to think that. I mean, good for those guys.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
They made the most of that not even 1 year.
Yeah,
that the XFL
literally 5 games.
Really made the most of that shot, and look at them.
I mean, that's awesome for those guys. I can't be happier for them. I mean, that is crazy.
Especially Te'amu being a St. Luke's Battlehawks fan myself.
I mean, the guy was a stud. I mean, he just went out there and performed basically every game. I mean, he was really solid for him.
Definitely.
But it is currently 7:54, almost 7:55. I think it is about time.
We are down to the wire.
We are officially down to the wire, which means that we are going to go through everything we talked about in this past hour and just do a quick little run through for you guys before we end up signing off for the weekend. In NFL news, the New York Jets are a train wreck.
Absolute train wreck.
I mean, had a terrible, for what the game was, against the Broncos. Backup, basically third string quarterback at this point, Brett Rypien, three picks, but the Jets still ended up managing to beat the Jets. New York is in a heat of trouble.
Oh, definitely.
Complete mess.
There's not a bright future for that franchise whatsoever.
Oh my God.
I don't think there ever really will be either.
And when we were looking at that, we were basically saying, Adam Gase had lost the team, and one of the hopes that we were talking about right now would be drafting quarterback Trevor Lawrence, and if the Jets are in that pick, we are urging Trevor Lawrence to stay at Clemson and not go to that garbage franchise and ruin your career.
So if you're the New York Jets, be kind. Don't waste this man's career.
Please don't. I mean, you have a decent quarterback in Darnold. Let's see what
most of it, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's see what he can do. Let's hope that Trevor Lawrence can go to a team that actually loves him. I mean, it'll be really tragic if Trevor Lawrence has to go through that much of a struggle in his early years.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah. So if Dabo has to run it back with Trevor for one more year, I don't think he'll be disappointed one bit.
Yeah.
We also talked about Week 4 preview of Pats versus Chiefs. This is gonna be the real test for the Pats. I mean, they put up a good fight against the Seahawks. If they can do something similar against the Chiefs here, that'll be something to really say that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But they did end up losing to that Seahawks team, and they are going to have to officially say they are going to have to win a game like this.
Yeah.
So
going into this week, if you're the Patriots, you gotta have that confidence that Mahomes has, because if you don't, that momentum is going to run all over you.
And a 3-1 start to a season is a world's different than a 2-2.
Yeah.
It just makes all that much difference. And it's crazy to think that it's only one game, but it completely changes the dynamic of a season.
What a tough schedule to start off.
It's not even to start off. The Pats have the hardest ranked schedule in football this year.
No, 2 away games. Chiefs and the Seahawks. That's rough.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough one. Season. It's gonna be a rough one season wise for the Pats.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they can make it through, but it's gonna be a crazy.
So far, making the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were able to take down Derek Carr pretty soundly. Had a good tune-up game against Miami to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering how they're gonna be able to really perform going forward.
Let's hope it's well.
Yeah, let's hope Camp can really come out there and give it to them. We also talked about the Steelers and Titans game being rescheduled to a later date in the season due to multiple COVID tests. I think 2 more players came out testing positive today. So things in those organizations are not looking too great right now. If this starts to become the norm in the NFL, I would definitely say the season's in jeopardy. I hope that the NFL can get a lid on this pretty quickly.
They really need to be able to.
Oh my God! If it gets bad, then we are in some serious trouble. We also in NFL news, we talked about the new mask penalties that the NFL is putting forward. Possible penalties include forfeiture of draft picks and suspensions. We were talking about this. I think that the NFL does need to cover themselves and save face in a way, but I do think this is extremely hypocritical, especially against the way that players are allowed to perform on the field, but then immediately have to social distance after the games. At that point, the damage is done. So I don't know. It is a mix, and I think that the NFL. They have to do their due diligence, but at the same time, I think that a reality check does need to come into play.
Definitely.
In NBA news, we're talking Game 2 of the Lakers Heat finals. Lakers are probably going to really be able to capitalize due to the injuries of Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo. Yeah. Really looks like the Heat are in some serious trouble. Unless a miracle can really happen, I don't
see it.
Yeah, don't really see too much hope going forward. We talked about Kyrie basically denying that he was dissing LeBron during comments about KD. That was a pretty lengthy discussion. We were pretty frustrated about that. Yeah. Kyrie basically said that KD will be the first guy he can ever defer a ball to in a late game situation. Kyrie's just, his head's full of hot air at this
Yeah.
point. Guy's kind of a dope. Then we also talked about the 76ers hiring head coach Doc Rivers. I think it's a good move. Carter doesn't, but we're gonna really just have to see how that.
We'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see how it pans out.
I think they'll continue to be mediocre.
We also reviewed the bubble in the experience in the NBA. In MLB news, we talked about a limited number of fans being allowed at the NLCS and World Series in Arlington, Texas, at Globe Life Field. Great news to see some normal stuff getting back in that league. We also got to see Carlos Correa fire back at quote haters for finally winning a wild card playoff series. Woo! Congratulations to you, dude.
Congrats.
Yeah, no, not really too impressed by Carlos Correa there. I mean, the guy's kind of been a clown ever since this whole cheating scandal thing has come down. Wouldn't expect anything less, but at the same time, I don't know, man. We also talked about the Miami Marlins, moving on in that playoff series. Congratulations to them. And then finally, we closed it out with the Rock announcing that he's gonna that the XFL will return sometime in 2022. We are very hopeful that that when it does return, coronavirus isn't as much of a concern anymore. Hopefully, it isn't a concern at all. And when it does return, it'll be better than ever.
Let's hope so.
From the Koffler Center, you've been listening to WJMF 88.7 HD2 Smithville, Providence, or you've been listening on our web player at WJMFradio.com, or if you've been watching for the visuals, you've been watching us here on Facebook. This footage will be on Instagram later tonight. But from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Carter Adams.
And have a great night.
Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate all the support.
All right, take care, you guys.